Guys, thank you so much for watching. We have a great show today with Miss Clare Lopez on Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 2:14 p.m. Eastern Time. It's been a little while since you've been on, and I have family coming in town tomorrow, so I was just on a show. Before that, I was cleaning my whole apartment, so I haven't still in gym clothes and not. I normally at least try to put on like a clean shirt and like do so like brush my hair, but I haven't even
You
done
don't have
that.
any hair, so it's not a
I
problem.
know, I know. So, but luckily, I know Claire well enough that I can be informal. But I don't even know really where to break into today. I think was that yesterday or the day before Zelensky meeting with Trump. We have India and Pakistan seemingly
Uh,
ready to go at each other's throats. The movement of I guess, the solitary Indian aircraft carrier. I saw that Pakistan has taken some, I guess, border outposts or something. I know nothing about, but for everybody listening, please go in the description. Please go follow Claire on Twitter. I'm going to hand it over to you though, because these are all
okay.
your expertises and not mine.
Yeah. So, no, absolutely right. Tensions are ratcheting up in a number of places, certainly along what they call the line of control between India and Pakistan. What happened is that around a week or so ago, um, an Islamic jihadi terror group, the Lashkar-e Taiba, conducted a horrific murder spree against Indian tourists in the in a tourist area of Kashmir that lies between Pakistan and India. It belongs to India, administered by India, but Pakistan, of course, is a jihadi state, and so it continuously tries to stir up trouble there. Well, they flat out massacred the Lashkar-e-Taiba jihadis massacred Indian tourists, civilians, after very carefully sorting them out to be sure that they were not killing any who were Muslim. And those who could prove they were Muslim, they did not kill. And the others were slaughtered. And since then, the tensions have ratcheted up and up. These are two nuclear powers. Remember, Pakistan and India are both nuclear weapons powers. And Fighting has broken out along again that line of control, as they say. And Tensions are ratcheting upwards. We'll have to see where this goes, but there's a lot of concern, about that conflict there. The last thing I'll say about this group, the Lashkar-e Taiba, um, like a number of other uh, jihadi groups of the Asian subcontinent, to include Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Tariqa-Taliban Pakistan, all of these are creatures, including the Taliban, I should say, the Taliban of Afghanistan, are creatures founded, organized, funded, trained by the Pakistani intelligence services, the ISI, Intelligence Service Directorate, and very small possibility that anything of this scale that they would carry out in terms of a jihadi slaughter attack against Indian tourists very likely was at least known to, if not orchestrated by, directed by the Pakistani intelligence service. Now, we'll remember, of course, their activism, if you want to call it that, goes way back. 2008 was the takeover, multi-day siege of places in Mumbai, India.
Hmm.
And then a year later, in 2009, was the jihadi suicide bombing at the U.S. CIA forward operating base um, in Afghanistan, in Khost, in Afghanistan, forward operating base Chapman, and that killed a number of our officers at that FOB. Then fast forward once again, come to, and that was directed by the Pakistani intelligence services. Fast forward to 2015, late December, there was a couple we might remember in San Bernardino in
Hmm.
California, Her name was Tafshin Malik, and she had a Pakistani born, had been educated in university level in the Punjab in Pakistan, which of course is prime recruiting ground for the Pakistani intelligence services as well as these jihadi terror groups that we've named. She came out of there. She dangled her name online as a marriage prospect. The American born, what was his name? Farouk, and I'm forgetting the last name, but found that online. They met up, they married, came to the United States, and in my opinion, at least my judgment, it was the wife, it was her who instigated, probably organized that Christmas party, the Christmas party shooting attack against their own work colleagues there in San Bernardino. I think that also was probably Pakistani intelligence service directed. And then one or two final more in 2016 in Orlando, Florida, was the
Mateen.
Omar Mateen shooting
Pulse
attack
nightclub.
at the Pulse nightclub that killed many people. And if we trace back, that killer's father had previously been a candidate for the presidency in Afghanistan. In other words, he's Taliban. And the attacker, Omar Mateen's own imam at the mosque he attended, was Pakistani. And then finally, final example of this really a rap sheet, in my opinion, was the I don't know, I call it the computer caper up on Capitol Hill, um, in which the brothers, what was their name?
A1.
The Awan brothers uh, got inside of Democrat Party computer systems and apparently had free access. We don't know exactly what was done or taken, if anything, but that too seems to me to have been directed by the Pakistani intelligence services. So a long rap sheet, and this now attack against the Indian tourists, just the latest in what I think of as a long line of Pakistani intelligence jihad attacks.
And notable mention, Osama bin Laden being found in Abbottabad.
Well, there's one more. And that place where he was
That
found, the
little
house he
one.
was living in, just in very close proximity to what we
Yeah.
might think of as the Pakistani West Point military training facility. What people don't realize is that Osama bin Laden and family had only been there in Abbottabad in Pakistan between mid 2010 and May of 2011 when our special forces got to him and eliminated him. But all that time between 9/11 itself, late 2001, let's say, up until mid 2010, Osama bin Laden, family, fighters were in safe haven in Iran. Same neighborhood, by the way, under the protection of the IRGC as where Hamas political leadership figure Ismail Haniyeh was eliminated. But they were in safe haven there, like I said, from the end last month or two of 2001 all the way till mid 2010. And that's when they moved to Abbottabad.
So yeah, seems to be yeah, like you said, a long rap sheet. And then, from what very little I know, they and India have never really been fans of each other.
Well, we'll recall, of course. I mean, when uh, what had been British India under the colonial rule of the United Kingdom for so long, when in 1947 that split up and was divided. And Pakistan was explicitly created to be an Islamic republic, whereas the India that we know today is a secular, democratic, westward looking, really, member of the international community. And then, of course, was the 19, what was it, 71 war that saw Bangladesh peel off from Pakistan to itself become an independent country. But it's been one long history of bloodshed. And of course, Pakistan, jihadi regime with a mandate to wage jihad um, eternally.
Obviously, if it goes nuclear, everything's off the table. But in terms of conventional forces, I mean, again, from my zero wisdom or knowledge, India's quite a bit larger.
Yes, India is a very powerful country, both economically and militarily. Yes, they both are nuclear powers, but in terms of conventional military power, India far, outstrips Pakistan.
Do you think then that's kind of which way we'll see this lean?
I don't know. I don't know. I hope that it can be, tamped down before it expands any further.
But if it does, I mean, are these all unrelated? I mean, from Iran's nuclear capabilities to Israel going on the defensive or offensive,
Well, I
Ukraine,
mean,
Russia.
obviously we know that Pakistan was the first place that the Iranian regime, certainly after the Ayatollah, current supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, took over after the 1989 death of the Ayatollah Khomeini, that the first place that he, Khomeini, sent the IRGC, Pasdaran, was to A.Q. Khan, father of the Pakistani bomb, they call him, to get blueprints and I think some starter kit pieces, parts for centrifuges to build its own Iranian nuclear weapons program. So, I mean, you're looking at what really is the Dar al-Islam, if you will, the House of Islam, um, allied with each other against the Dar al-Harb, that is the House of War, as they call it, all those places not under Islamic law, under Sharia. And we'll recall too that historically, back in times when the British moved into the subcontinent. Remember Rudyard Kipling and Kim and all of that, right? The Great Game. And Britain um, uh, took the subcontinent as a whole at that time from the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire was an Islamic empire of conquest that had conquered the subcontinent over centuries previous to that. So, under the Islamic doctrine of sacred space, any land ever conquered or occupied by Islam is considered forever waqf, W-A-Q-F, waqf. And that means land endowed by Allah, by God, to Islam in perpetuity. And if they lose it through war or circumstances, whatever, it is obligatory to fight till the end of time to get that back. That is why Pakistan attacks India. In their way of looking at it, Islam lost India to the British, and it's been secular, democratic, modern, westward looking ever since. That's anathema to Islam, of course. The same thing with the Jewish state of Israel. You know, the Levant overall, including today's Jewish state of Israel, was conquered by the forces of Islam in about 636, 638 current era CE. And Israel is now modern, secular, democratic, um, liberal Western style democracy. Anathema to Islam, which considers that sacred space. And of course, they have to fight forever and ever to get it back. My concern is that our own senior national security leadership here in the United States, they probably, as far as I can tell, don't know any of this or why these perpetual wars are fought. Why they don't think like we think, but they don't know that, and that's concerning to me.
When are we going to get you into the administration? Why don't you go
Well,
wrap
next
some
time we
heads?
have a talk with our president, maybe you can
I'll
put
do
in a
my
good word for
best.
me.
I'll do my best. Get you up there, bang some heads together. It's also exhaust. I mean, it really it is exhausting. I feel like every conflict you can look at the bottom of, and it eventually comes down to, and why is this? And it's like, well, because we have to wage endless war against the infidel. It's just like,
Yeah,
fuck. It just, where does China come in on this? Because China's bordering India,
China.
and yeah, but what's their
Yeah.
interest?
So communist China, under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party and currently Xi Jinping, um, is in what we might think of as an axis of rogues. And
Yeah,
that would include a loose alliance among China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and even, if you will, Cuba, Venezuela in our own hemisphere. Um, but China is intent upon conquering the entire world.
yeah,
It doesn't just have, a jihad mentality like all of these Islamic places do. China thinks that it ought to be the Ba, the hegemon of the entire world. And they're willing to do that incrementally through a process called unrestricted warfare. And part of that is a commercial, almost transactional agenda, which is what I see in the Middle East, and particularly with Iran, which provides China right now with, I think, the majority, the overwhelming majority of its energy needs, in particular oil, which of course are under sanctions by both the United Nations and the Trump administration, now back in office, and once again actually enforcing those sanctions against the shipping and the transport of oil from Iran to China. But that's China's interest. And eventually, I think they have ideas about building out the Belt and Road project all the way to the Persian Gulf westward. But so for them, it's not so much ideological as it is neo, or
yeah,
not neo, even just empirical take over the world.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't. I don't look at China as yeah being caught up in that fervor. I think to them it is respect your enemy. It's just a very calculated. These are cogs in the machine that can be used for the beneficial operation of the larger machine.
Kind of like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not that they're it's more it's the ragtag, like these are all the black sheeps. And it's not that it lines up perfectly so much as because they're antithetical to the existing hegemonic coalition, they are definitionally,
Well, this group that we're naming, again, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and then maybe add Cuba and
Cuba,
Venezuela,
Venezuela.
they want to see a change in the world order that post World War II in particular has been led and dominated by the United States. And with our allies, both East and West allies, that are looking for a sovereign national, a nation state system under liberal, democratic, secular, democratic style of governance. And that, of course, is anathema to all the rogues, which each have, their own ideas about what they want to do instead, but to displace certainly the United States is their common goal.
Because it's less ideological, is there any way to prevent or pry them apart from those nations? Like an Islamic like theocracy, like no matter what it's to the end of time, kill them all, river
Yeah.
of blood. You know what that is, because in the same way that China fed off the U.S. over unequal trade and outsourcing of manufacturing, they're in for their own benefit. Is there any way in which, even if engineered that way, that China would be more attracted to the existing hegemon, if not only to build their own system? Is there any way in which a wedge is driven in between them?
Well, you might recall, been there, done that, already tried that back in the
Nixon,
Nixon Kissinger years
yeah,
of the
that's yeah,
1970s
and
to try
wasn't,
to drive a wedge between Russia and China, peel China off
yeah,
from Russia. Apparently, the lessons of that
and
history have not been so well learned
yeah,
because there are efforts even now
to
um, to try to drive a wedge between Russia and China. But as long as the United States remains dominant and powerful, that only drives them closer together, ideology aside, or ultimate objectives aside, or even what may eventually turn out to be competition for something like, let's say, the natural resources of Siberia. That's in the future sometime. Um, but for now, the opposition to United States leadership of the liberal democratic sovereign nation state world keeps them together.
and that was your thesis paper, which we will
Well, about Siberia was my master's paper.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. No,
thesis.
we will
Hmm.
break it out again. Um, yeah, no, yeah, I because that's what General Spaulding always talks about in his books is like the attempted, if we welcome them to the table, democracy will flourish, and it
Mm-mm.
provably has not worked. That being said, is there a calculation, and not to, but I'm not saying that the people in charge are doing, but just if you're in charge, is there a calculation to go, no, we know that inviting them to the table doesn't work, but it's we can at least pry them away from the rogue nations and push that can down the road. It's not ideal, but is it
No,
better than no?
not possible. I
Okay.
don't believe it's possible.
Yeah.
Instead, what President Trump is doing with his tariff policy, especially towards China, is weakening its ability economically, certainly, but economically also means in larger measure, everything else, including military. Um, and in that way, weakening the rule, the grip that the Chinese Communist Party has over China. That's the current policy of the U.S. administration right now.
Yeah, thank God we have Trump. What is like one of the nighttime hosts, one of like the lefty idiots, but like a year or two ago, I don't know who, maybe it was Bill Maher. It's someone who like doesn't hold water for Trump, but he had said somebody had made a threat, and he goes, "You don't have to like it, but everyone in this room know, it's in Hollywood. Everyone in this room knows if Trump was in office, this wouldn't happen because that man's crazy."
Well,
I'm
sometimes it's not a bad
not at all.
policy to
It's not
let
bad.
others think, adversaries, that is, to think that maybe you're just a little bit unpredictable. Remember how they used
Madman,
to talk about President Ronald Reagan?
well,
He's a
madman
cowboy.
theory.
You never
Yeah.
know what he's going to do. That doesn't hurt sometimes to keep them on their toes, guessing, not sure of, exactly where we're going to go. That can sometimes help to restrain, some of the impulses of these adversaries and enemies for being afraid of what kind of a response they might elicit.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that in a negative way at
Yeah,
all. No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's the you want I mean the madman theory to where I mean again Nixon. he wasn't actually the madman, but if you remember, they actually leaked documents because they wanted the Soviet Union to think Nixon was crazier than he was. They actually leaked things saying like, "Well, boy, I sure hope Nixon doesn't use the H bomb in Vietnam."
Mm.
Now they didn't bite because I guess you can't really fake it. Like you do have to be a little unhinged. But man, I'm happy we got the Golden Dawn in there because I mean, yeah, no, it's you don't actually know. He might actually nuke you. He might give you a trade deal. I don't know what he's gonna do, and I would rather have that as things continue to heat up. Definitely not at ease. At it just seems like I don't know. It's like all the like the Cold War movies where you detect the first missile and then the second one and the screen lights up. It's just like looking at past over the several years. It's like, okay, COVID, Ukraine, Russia, October 7th, worried about Taiwan, India, Pakistan, Iran. It does just kind of seem like the lights are coming on. If you look at like a 5-year time lapse, but is this an unavoidable train crash? Am I just more aware of what's going on in the world? Is it, you have the crystal ball? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right that there are, any number of crisis points in the world right now, and simultaneously. But at the same time, I think we are extremely lucky to have both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel for such a time as this, and once again, President Donald Trump in the White House. And at least in the Middle East, they are degrading seriously what was called, I guess, the axis of resistance that the Iranian regime was trying to deploy across the Middle East to gain its own control, its own dominance over the entire Middle East, with the ultimate objective, of course, of destroying Israel. But Israel has turned the tables on them. I was just listening to the speech, by the way. I find it interesting, I think. Speech of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, just recently given in Israel at the JNS conference. And that speech is online. He lays out how Israel went about demolishing, taking apart, the Iranians' um, axis of resistance, from Hamas to Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and even the Shiite militias in Iraq and what used to be called Syria, the Hashd-Shabi. And then, of course, with Hezbollah degraded, um, there was no cavalry coming to the rescue of Bashar al-Assad, and he's no longer in Damascus. Now, the one who is there, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham leader, Ahmed al-Shara, got our own concerns about him. But the point being that the landscape of the Middle East has been completely remade over the last couple of years, thanks to Israel. Um, so yes, a lot of crisis points around the world, but at least here and in Jerusalem, the right people at the top to deal with it all.
Will we see, and this is something I'm completely ignorant on, what is the U.S.'s relationship with India militarily? Is this something
Well,
we
for a
see
long
U.S.
time,
aid?
many decades, really, India has had a military relationship with Russia, Soviet Union before that.
I didn't know that.
And yes, and the Soviet Union, Russia have provided a great deal of India's military capability over weapons and so forth over the years. However, more recently now, Israel and the United States have reached out to India based on, a common shared liberal democratic government outlook, that among us we share among us. So um, that former relationship is shifting a bit, and certainly we just saw recently the visit of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the United States, where he was warmly welcomed and
Hmm.
had very good and important meetings with President Trump and administration figures, and also the relationship with India or with Israel, between India and Israel, is now warmer and closer than it has been ever.
Best case, it feels like best case scenario for just to look at the last 5 years to extrapolate forward. It almost, for lack of the Iron Curtain speech, for lack of a better phrase, it almost seems like lines are being drawn again. And I would rather it go into like another Cold War as opposed to, I'd rather, I mean, obviously rather it be peace, but with the actual probable outcomes, it does kind of seem like the Iron Curtain speech is applicable again. New borders, but doesn't seem like they're all kind of cold. I mean, I know US, Australia, UK, we're doing the submarine deal, and then all of all of NATO and Europe and the upping in or not manufacturing and I guess contribution of GDP. Doesn't it kind of seem like they're all coalescing again if you were to just 100,000 foot view zoom out over a decade?
Well, I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying. Certainly, really in response to the aggressive, the neo-empirical ambitions um, of the rogue states we've talked about, Iran, China, Russia. That's neo-empirical. That is globalist. That is the threat to what we would call the free world, which is, just as you say, now unifying perhaps more than ever in various configurations, certainly out in the Far East. The ones you mentioned, there's the Quad, India, Japan, US, and Australia. There is what's called AUKUS, AUKUS, which is Australia, the UK, and the US. And these alliances are formed to protect our allies among those alliances, um, as well as others that are not necessarily formally a part of those alliances, but against the encroachment, the militarization, the aggression of a Chinese Communist Party and People's Liberation Army in Beijing. That's one example. And, come to Europe and Putin's invasion of Ukraine back, well, certainly first in 2014, more recently in 2022, um, has drawn the European powers, NATO members, as well as others who might not yet be, closer together, and also towards thinking more seriously about their own responsibility for their own defense, in this case, to ramp up their own defense spending per GDP, which, for example, Poland and the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, have all increased their defense spending to 5% of GDP, whereas the NATO threshold requirement is 2%, which all have not yet even met. But those who feel themselves most under threat from an expansionist, aggressive, neo-empirical Russia, up to 5% GDP.
It's really kind of there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I think that applies to global stability. It's like it's outright hot war, or everyone pays. Yeah, and admittedly, no one wants to foot the bill. Nobody wants insurance. You gotta have it. The other side is so much worse. It just kind of seems
Right.
like
Well,
it.
I mean, deterrence is always going to be,
Yes.
the better option than waiting until deterrence is no more and the
Yeah.
aggression has launched.
Yeah. Oh, it's war started. We better boot up those factory lines. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work. You can't turn it on.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, and again, yeah, ideally we'd all be singing Kumbaya. I get that. Best outcome, I really do think it's some form of another Cold War, which is not the best resignation, but
But better than a hot war.
I feel like it's the
Yeah.
most realistic thing. And it's, Yeah, but it could go hot and go nuclear. Anything could ever go hot and go nuclear.
Well, there's a lot of propaganda out there deliberately intended to frighten
Yeah,
gullible Westerners into fearing to stand up against Russia,
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
defend
No,
Ukraine. Now, that's info ops.
yeah, and it's and the other thing I think it was like I think who was it? It was where Command and Control Eric Schlosser. So we have this idea that the end of the Cold War was like the end of the threat of nuclear Armageddon. And he's like, for this book, I visited the site. He's like, they're all there. The missiles are fueled. Like the guys are down there with the keys. It never went away. I mean, sure, it's not the Cuban Missile Crisis, but there's no like that didn't go away. Sure, it's not good that there's global tensions, but that can't be a reason for like not arming yourselves.
Well, again, deterrence is better
Yeah.
than no deterrence.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about as peaceful of a note as we can wrap up on. I know you got to run, so I will let you
Best we
go
can do for
early.
today.
Um, but for everybody listening, please go in the description. Please go follow Claire on Twitter. I will send you this episode. As always, good to catch up, and I will, yeah, don't be ping me, harass me. If I'm getting worse and worse juggling guests, please d smack me around. Say, Tom, we haven't done a show in a week, and I will get you in. I'm admittedly getting
Not
worse and
necessarily
worse.
smack you around, but I might
Pop
ping
me
you.
over the head. Yeah, no, I do that. I really do. I really do forget. And so
It's okay.
thank you. All right, Ms. Lopez.
Glad to catch up with you too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank
And
you.
guys, again, please go to the description. Please go follow her on Twitter. Till next time. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you.